What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today, here with another tier list for the month of October 2024. It is crazy to believe that we are at the end of the year, almost. That is wild. I mean, this year feels like it's gone by like it's nothing. Like this has been crazy. But anyways, let's talk about the tier list, right? So in terms of new additions and stuff, we've got a couple new characters to actually talk about. We've got the dual unit Lucci Kaku. We've got Kid and Shanks, which is an interesting unit. Hawkins 6+, of course. The new exchange legend Vivi, and then the new units of the end of the month with Garp and then the sword members. But before we actually jump into the tier list, let's go ahead and make a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by the folks over at Marvel Strike Force. Marvel Strike Force is a dynamic, squad-based RPG that brings the Marvel Universe to life. Players assemble powerful teams of Marvel heroes and villains to battle iconic enemies in epic combat with endless team combinations and strategic gameplay. New characters are constantly being released, and this month, be on the lookout for the highly anticipated Agatha and Blade and his team of Night Stalkers. You can get these characters by using the link in the video description or scanning my QR code for free. One of the greatest aspects of Marvel Strike Force is the sheer volume of characters to play as, especially when they promote cinematic releases such as the recent Deadpool vs. Wolverine movie. There are loads of other Marvel favorites you can unlock. As a new player, you can get access to up to 17 free characters within the first 30 days. You can be playing as characters such as Spider-Man, Thor, or Captain America in no time at all. Another facet of Marvel Strike Force that really blew me away were the team synergy aspects that can really elevate your game. Some characters are powerful by themselves, but when you surround them with characters of the same faction, it can provide substantial boosts to your overall squad. Some characters may possess even some unique abilities, which can provide new ways to play or additional layers of intricacies, which enhances the gameplay experience of Marvel Strike Force. And there's even more. To celebrate the spooky season, players can go ahead and redeem the code Halloween in-game to get their hands on 100 shards for Zombie Iron Man, 600,000 gold, and 480 L2 training modules, all for free just by using that code. So once again, go to the video description down below and use my link, or use the QR code on screen to download Marvel Strike Force today. Remember to keep logging in to get your free Agatha Harkness character, and thank you very much to the folks over at Marvel Strike Force for sponsoring this video. So, one thing to note in terms of new additions to the tier list, I don't actually remember if I put V1 Brook in here, but V1 Brook, I think, does need a bit of a little bit of a mention, of course, with how useful that character has been in the most recent Super Boss Kizuna. And I think, honestly, because of the Super Boss Kizuna scenario, I am going to bump him all the way up to moderately used. Now, let's be real here, that the only reason why Brook is actually being used is because of the Super Boss Kizuna. I know that there are hardcore fans out there that absolutely love V1 Brook and have been making dedicated videos and content surrounding V1 Brook for a while, but look, you got to keep it real here. In terms of comparing him to every other legend in the game, he is definitely at the bottom of the barrel, but for the usefulness and the very unique mechanics that he provides, he definitely deserves to be on this list in some scenario. So shout out to V1 Brook for being the homie. Now, in terms of any other new additions to this list, there are definitely a lot of good legends in here, but the real problem is like, are you actually ever going to use these units? And honestly, probably not. Let's be real. There's a lot of characters here that you're just probably never ever going to use. Now, in terms of characters that should be moved up or moved down, let's actually start from the top and see if anyone needs to be bumped down. So if we look at the always used tier, we've got some pretty hardcore characters here. I mean, we've got the homies, we've got the goats. You guys know the deal. I think that me putting Cross Guild in this tier is probably a bit more of a bias because I absolutely love this unit, but I can definitely see why most people probably wouldn't have this character as high as what I currently have it. Law vs. Blackbeard is a bit of an interesting unit because Blackbeard having the HP guard when he first debuted was massive, and it still is a very, very good mechanic that he gets access to. But since his release, we have already had 2 additional legends that have had access to the HP guard mechanic. 2 of which we're going to be talking about today with Shanks and Kid, as well as the Garp character. Now, I will say Garp's HP guard is pretty redundant in I won't say in a lot of cases because we've barely had use of him yet, but his is only a 90% reduction where, you know, Kid and Blackbeard's are 100% reduction, which really does make a difference. It is a little bit strange that Garp only has a 90% reduction where, you know, he already cuts your health when you use his special, so yeah, having the HP guard being a 100% would actually make a ton of sense with this unit. Kid also has health reduction, and then the HP guard makes perfect sense for him as well. So if they start introducing more characters that have innate abilities to reduce your crew's health and want to play around at that low HP threshold, HP guard is going to be way more important for those types of characters, so at least they have been doing design aspects in that regard, where characters that want to beat low HP thresholds have actually been receiving the HP guard mechanic, because, you know, sometimes the design for some of these units can definitely be questionable. I mean, Garp's design in and of itself is already questionable, but there's that. So because of the fact that HP guard has become less common, I would say, and we'll see what happens as we move forward. Is HP guard going to be in like every batch moving forward? It's going to be hard to say. But all of this is why I'm saying this is because I am going to be bumping Law versus Blackbeard down. And what the real big annoyance here is the fact that like Law really hampers down this unit. Now, what I will say is that Law does have potential to be very good. The problem right now is that the Striker class just isn't very powerful. Out of all the classes in the game, it does have high potential, but it just needs a couple more units for it to be actually very good. Obviously, can synergize really well with a character like this, but let's keep it real. Right now, it's probably not the greatest to be using Law, but I think Law does have relatively good synergy with the new sword members. They are Shooter and Striker, and they have the set target status super type effect. So if you can somehow, you know, use their super type effect and then use Law special to switch your captain around so that you can have a different captain, that would be good, because if you're stuck with using the sword characters as your captain, probably not great. And I guess kind of bringing this back to the sword characters once again, and why that combo is good, is because set target status is essentially 1.75 more damage. With this unit, their set target status is not as good as cross guilds, but it's still very, very good. But the problem is in order to activate the super type, you need like one of the other marine characters on the crew, and there aren't that many good characters that are Striker and the units required for this character super type in the Striker team. So I guess technically you could put like Legend X Drake, which I may have somewhere on this list. Legend X Drake is not awful, I guess. He does have the special reverse resistance and stuff like that. So there are some uses, but yeah, Law versus Blackbeard, I didn't really use it that much this month, but let's be real, you're just using stuff for the boosted list anyway, so it is what it is. I still am a pretty big fan of most of the characters up on this list. I think most people agree that Enmazora deserves to be up pretty high, but the real problem is he's really annoying to use, and if you're not using Hiyori with him, he's very, very difficult to use. Now, as for the rest of the characters here, I actually kind of want to bump up the Oiran Yamato up a little bit more. I felt like she's been really useful this month. I've had a lot of fun using this character, and just the innate ability to just use her special and remove any one debuff by 7 can just be so useful in a lot of circumstances. Also was super clutch in the Super Boss Kizuna, so you cannot disregard that. The rest of the characters here seem pretty good. Nothing really too much noteworthy stuff here. Potentially would bump the Whitebeard versus Blackbeard character down. I really am looking forward to Sober Mask's Super Evolution. I think that has a lot of potential to be a god tier Super Evolution, but we'll have to wait and see. I do think that Law and Beppo and not Kid and Law, but Kid and Killer dual unit. These two units surprisingly very, very good. Great synergy with Dex, Int, and then either Driven or Cerebral. A lot of good Cerebral characters released recently. A lot of good Driven characters released recently. They've just got really good kits, and they're not really great captains. They're usable captains, but they're definitely phenomenal subs with their really powerful super switch effect in tandem with that special. Very, very strong mechanics that they get access to. Now, as for the rest of the list, like Kuzan, yeah, still kind of a stinker in my eyes. I'm not really a big fan of this character at all. I kind of want to dump him from the list entirely, to be quite frank, but we'll leave him here for now. As for the rest of the list here, it seems pretty good. I wish this character was so much better than what he is, but he just ain't. This character is a little bit more useful, I would say, because of the recent Striker and Powerhouse related support. I may have bumped him up from last month as well, but he seems honestly really, really good this month. Like, if you didn't pull for Law versus Blackbeard, you know, getting access to the Striker and Powerhouse focus support, like, this character is like a fantastic hybrid scenario in that regard. So you could run him in a Striker team, you could run him in a Powerhouse team, you can run him in a lot of cool ways. As for the characters here, these are just kind of like the niche characters where every once in a while, these characters with these really weird, wacky abilities are just going to be useful. I guess in some ways, this Hody Jones can also be useful because of that support effect being ridiculously good. But that pretty much brings an end to most of the list. And we'll talk about the top 5 and see if that's going to be shifting around in any regards when we get to the end of the video. But let's go ahead and talk about some of these new units and where they will be placed in my tier list. So we have Rob, Lucci, and Kaku. I unfortunately didn't get my hands on this unit, so whenever they are boosted on another Treasure Map Sugo Fest, I would love to pull for this unit because I do believe this is going to be a fantastic character to have moving forward in future treasure maps because of their really cool switch effect to just kill things. So normally you would save a slot on your crew for wave clearing scenarios, but if you've got a dual unit that can do it for you with their switch effect that's charged at the start of the quest, it just frees up more slots to just deal with enemy gimmicks or for higher point boosters on your squads. So if you're a hardcore treasure map player, I feel like Lucci and Kaku is a fantastic character to have. And because of that, I kind of want to put them in moderately used because if treasure map rolls around every month, I feel like this is probably a character you're going to find a slot for in just about every treasure map. You know, even if it's like the really easy mini boss, chucking them on there just to use their switch effects to wave clear. If you get dealt with some gimmicks, you've got 4 subs to deal with that, or a ship as well, or supports to deal with the rest of the gimmicks on that fight. Like, this is not a character you're going to use in normal content that much, in my opinion, but they have some really unique abilities to get around those defensive effects of % damage reduction and damage threshold. And also, if the enemy does apply it, you also get attack and all boost for your driven and fighter characters because of it. So I think overall, Rob, Lucci, Kaku is a pretty well-designed unit. I will say the treasure map surrounding this character's release was absolutely god-awful. We can all agree on that. But the unit itself, I think, is honestly pretty good. So Shanks and Kid, let's talk about Shanks and Kid. You know, let's just go in order. I think I usually would probably keep him till last, but let's actually add him to the list. Now, usually what I've done in these videos, right, is I have kept the versus units together as one single solitary unit. I think people would probably disagree with that, and the fact that you have, like for example, you can have Shanks who does a lot of different things to what Kid does. But the real thing is if you have one of these units, you have both of them. So there's that aspect of it. But I will say, out of a lot of these versus units, this is definitely one of them where I feel like there are both really good and really bad aspects to both of these sides of the versus unit. Now, I think a lot of people would agree in the fact that Shanks is a pretty disappointing unit. I think that Shanks should have been way, way stronger than what he has been given in this game. The way that they've designed this unit is they have solely focused Shanks' design on beating Super Boss Kizunas. And honestly, he is pretty good at doing that, and we all saw that coming. Just by reading his abilities, seeing the versus effect requirement, and using him in the Super Boss Kizuna, we all understood, yeah, he's perfect for Kizuna. Obviously, synergizing really well with this unit. If this unit did not exist, a lot of these other units would be considered bad or not as good. And yeah, this unit, any unit that releases that's slasher or free spirit focused, Zoro Sanji immediately buffs them. So this character being focused on slashers, if you have the full team of slashers, you get double stacking conditional boost. He provides a conditional boost against 2 different status effects. If you've already got the effect of double stacking conditional boost, if you're running double Shanks, you can get another conditional boost. His versus effect allowing the weakness buff to be applied, which in tandem with a increased damage taken buff can further increase that. So the fact that you had the synergy of this free spirit Luffy and this slasher Shanks with this Zoro Sanji dual unit, like this combo of using his versus effect to get the 1.75 increased damage taken through immunity, and then Shanks to get the 1.3 weakness through immunity, and if you have increased damage taken, it's a further 1.3 times increased damage taken, which is, I think it equates to like a 3 to 4 times increased damage taken buff on the enemy. So that's wild. And you have the conditional boost. Luffy provides a conditional boost. Shanks provides a conditional boost. So they both provide their own conditional boost against the buff that they give to the debuff that they give to the enemy. So these characters work so well, gelled together with Zoro and Sanji. So they make that team work. And that combo was disastrous. It was so good. So much damage. And a lot of people were able to reach that 1 trillion, should I say, damage cap threshold because of this character alone. Now we take the other side of this argument with Kid. Now, Kid, I think Kid is very good. On paper, Kid is a phenomenal Super Sugo Fest exclusive character. And he is one of my favorite characters that's debuted in the entire celebration. The real problem is that the shooter class is not really built to take on Super Boss Kizunas. Shooter class is one of the best classes to take on normal generic content because they have a lot of gimmick removal. The captain effects in shooter class are phenomenal. You've got Ben Beckman and Lucky Roo obviously being one of the best units that released last year. You've got like characters like Izo. You've got the Memories Frankie, which is around here somewhere. He's not as good obviously, but he's still usable for sure. And Shooter's got access to this kid, and this kid is amazing. However, he does have some pretty big drawbacks. Number one, his versus effect requirement really hurts him from being used in normal content. He's actually a relatively fast captain. He gives -2 cooldown. He's got a great special ability for applying damage, and whenever another shooter uses a special, he's supercharging that special. You want to use as many specials as possible, of course, before you launch Kids. And Kid's got a great captain ability resisting bind as well, super good. But that versus effect is great, but the requirement to reach the versus effect is considerably difficult, as you have to consume bomb, super bomb, tandem, and recovery slots, and that's really difficult to do when his captain ability doesn't generate them for you, so you have to rely on other effects in order to get that to work, or you just stall a bunch of turns, which is counterintuitive with the way that he's designed. So the fact that this versus requirement is built in such a way where it's really good in Kizuna because it already gets charged for you, but outside of Kizuna, very difficult to launch. And another problem with Kid is his super tandem effect is pretty mid, let's be real here. You have to tap with basically your whole crew before you get it to trigger, and it gives buffs to final tap units. So, unless shooters get a really good final tap unit in the future, I just don't see it being used in a super boss sense. So it's really frustrating where you've got Kid who's designed to basically speed farm content, and then you've got Shanks who is built for Kizuna and works really well in that fashion, but Kid's kind of like designed in two separate ways, and it doesn't work. It's really clunky. Of course, it works very well in normal content if you are up against content that charges you at the start, so you don't have to worry about like the versus effect at all. But it is a little frustrating, honestly. But that HP guard that he has in that versus effect is so strong. The fact that you can just chuck this on any team and get HP guard for anyone is incredibly powerful as well. So, yeah, I really love this character's design. I love the Kid unit. I think Shanks is underwhelming, but in practice, Shanks does end up being better than what Kid is. It's just a really weird scenario with this unit. But all in all, I will say this unit is actually still very good, and I want to put them in this tier. Where would I put them though? I'd say in terms of how useful they're going to be, they're probably only going to be used in the super boss scenario. They're probably around the Nami level. They're probably a little bit better than Nami, let's be real. These characters just see so much play. These characters, AC Yamato is probably a little bit lower. Like, these characters just see so much play, these key utility units. And that's probably where I'd put him. They're definitely not a bad unit by all means, but the problem is we were expecting so much more from this unit, and we just didn't get it. So it's frustrating because this unit should have been like literally like in top 5. That's what we're hoping for. And they didn't design him that way, which is just a really big shame. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. We have Legend Hawkins 6+. We already made a video about him. He's a stinker, but he does have some niche uses for sure. With the effect to just tank any hit pretty much with that super type, it is pretty good. Of course, you only get access to it when you use him as a captain, and his super type requirement is a little harsh, I will admit. Captain ability, you're just never going to use him, so I'll leave him here for now, but like, to be perfectly honest, he probably doesn't even deserve to be on this list. Not really too much to say about Hawkins, a little bit disappointing. Now, we've got Vivi. So, the Exchange Legend Vivi, honestly, I am a little disappointed with what they decided to do with this unit. This character is unique, as you use the special, you can get a guaranteed delay through immunity, and then if you hit, I think it's a certain amount of perfects, or it might be a clock buff, can't remember exactly, you delay again in the next turn, and you get a delayed conditional boost for 3 turns. So basically, you can use it on a stage 4, delay, kill, move into the next stage, delay, guaranteed through immunity again. The character's captain ability is not great. The super type, pretty mid. Special ability is fine. There's just a lot of aspects about this character I'm not really the biggest fan of. This character is very similar to the other, like, Memories of Straw Hats. I mean, this literally is called, like, Memories of Alabaster, if I remember correctly. And these characters have the same design philosophy, where if you use their special twice in the same turn, you get a beneficial buff, like another buff. And this character's beneficial buff is actually good. I think it's like a 3.25 chain boundary for 3 turns, and she gets a guaranteed rainbow slot or whatever. But in order to use it multiple times in the same turn, you have to use the super type for 1, which means you have to use her as a captain, and her captain ability is not great. And number 2, even if you do use the super type, it only charges her by 10 turns, and I think at max she goes down to 12 or 13, so you still have to apply another cooldown reduction effect in order to use her twice in the same turn. So just very, very weird design mechanic in regards to these memories of Straw Hats. If they were able to double charge their specials way easier, then these units would be so much better than what they are. Unfortunately, they're just not. So I think Vivi with the double guaranteed delay through immunity over multiple stages, that actually could be pretty good. Especially if the enemy like reacts to being delayed or something, because this would actually bypass it. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what they have planned for this, but at the moment I would say Vivi is a pretty underwhelming character, and especially the amount of investment that you need to get this character from base level when you get it for free all the way up to maxed, it is a lot. So they definitely should have made the character a lot better than what it is, considering, I don't know where I've put Exchange Ace, right here. Exchange Ace, for what he is and the investments that he needs to get to where he needs to be, this Ace is actually really, really good. Another good character that synergizes with the Kid unit, by the way. Double stacking conditional boost, paralysis conditional, and then ignited conditional works so well together. It's just a shame, man. It's just a shame. Vivi should have been so much better than what she is. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Monkey D. Garp, the Galaxy Fist, Galaxy Impact. Look, Garp is... he's fine. I just don't think... what they decided to do for his design just does not make sense with what we kind of expected with Garp. If you went up to some random One Piece fan who's played Treasure Cruise, and you asked them, if you were to design Galaxy Impact Garp, how would you design this unit? I don't think anyone would have mentioned, I think he needs end of turn healing and overhealing. That just doesn't make sense with what this character is doing right now. Like, he should have been super offensively focused, and I will admit, his Rumble stuff, very, very much in line with what I would have thought Galaxy Impact Garp would have been. However, his normal content stuff just doesn't make sense. It's very confusing. Being focused around the end of turn healing, and then depending on how many turns of end of turn healing you have, you get more beneficial buffs. Very strange. What I will say though is that if you do use him correctly, and you're able to use the special when you have, I think it's what, 10 or 15 more turns of end of turn healing, being able to change all your characters into fighter for one turn, that does have good implications for stuff moving forward. He could see a lot of play just because of that alone, but the problem is getting 15 turns of end of turn healing, even with the way that Garp is designed, is actually really, really difficult to do. Especially in normal content, I guess the only real way to achieve it realistically is to probably use his whole batch, because of the way that his design, where if you activate tap timing bonus damage, you extend the effect of your end of turn healing. But the thing is like, if you're in short form content like Kizuna, yeah, this could see some play, but like, let's be real, fighters are not going to be shaking the meta for a super boss Kizuna team. And then if you're using it in normal content where you have to like potentially stall to get your cooldowns, your end of turn healing is going to expire anyway. So yeah, I don't really get what they were doing with this unit. Like, it just feels like he's just kind of built for the PKA, and then he's basically never going to be used again. I've been talking about it with some other people in the community, and we're like thinking how we could potentially use this guy in like high damage scenarios for a super boss Kizuna, and we kind of boiled it down to like, oh yeah, you could use like Zoro and Sanji potentially to transform everyone to free spirit, because Garp does still boost free spirit. But at the end of the day, you just end up using the same units that we have already talked about up here, and this character is pointless on the team. It just doesn't help you. Like, being able to change into fighter is good, but this one is just better. So yeah, I don't know, Garp's design is just odd. I'm not really the biggest fan of this unit, and I do think he is fine. He's a perfectly okay Sugofest exclusive, but considering the situation where we kind of expected Galaxy Impact Garp to be a very strong unit, and the fact that it's debuted right after this Versus celebration, it just leaves a sour taste in everyone's mouth. Like, we kind of wanted this in the celebration. Like, the Lore versus Blackbeard stuff, we kind of didn't really want. I mean, at least I was in the camp of not really caring about a Lore versus Blackbeard, because we already had, like, Lore and Blackbeard stuff earlier on in the year, and we were kind of hoping we were going to get, you know, Shanks Kid, definitely, and then Garp Kuzan, definitely, as well, because those were the two most recent fights in the One Piece anime, and we didn't really get that. So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm just a bit disappointed. I'm actually pretty disappointed with what they've done with this Garp. He could have been so much better. Now, speaking of disappointments, this sword member, Prince Gru, Kujaku, and Hibari, this unit also is very, very strange. Very weird design, is meant to work with Garp, obviously. The thing is I don't see this character really ever seeing play at all. They have this special where they can basically reduce the enemy's damage threshold by 90%. Like, that's actually pretty cool. But the thing is we already have characters in the game that can just straight up remove all enemies' damage threshold completely, or Rainbow Shield completely, or defense completely. and this character's, oh no, we're just going to reduce it by 90%. Like, why not just remove it? I don't understand it. If you're going to do a 90% reduction, you might as well just state remove threshold completely. Would have been so much better. Of course, they are introducing more gimmicks into the game, interrupts, where it says, like, if the enemy has their threshold removed, they activate an interrupt. That would be good in that scenario, but that's very rare. It doesn't happen that often, so there's that. The only real use case I can see for Gru, Hibari, and Kujaku for being actually good is using that in tandem with Law. We talked about it a little bit earlier on in the video. Character's super type is the one redeeming quality that I actually like about this unit. The super type being able to inflict set target status on the opponent, so your fighter, shooter, slasher, and striker all get 1.75 times bonus damage. And then if you have your law special ability states, if you have a full team of strikers, you can switch your middle right position into the captain. So after you use your sword character's super type, you can use law special. Someone can go into the captain spot instead, potentially Law himself, and then the unit gets switched into the captain spot, gets 20 turns of cooldown. So Law himself can use double special, which would be pretty strong as well. Law's got a great versus effect too. So that I think is going to be a great combo, but we'll have to wait and see. If strikers get more support, I think that's going to be a pretty solid way to go about it. And with that, that's what we have for new additions to the tier list. Now let's go ahead and move on to the top 5. I don't think Zoran Sanji, he is not moving. He is staying exactly where he is. Now, in terms of the other units here, I am going to be bumping Psy Gear 5 down one stage. I've been using the Int Gear 5 a lot more recently, and I have thoroughly enjoyed using that character. As for the rest of the list, though, I think Ace at number 2 still makes a bunch of sense. The cooldown reduction is insane. You can use him in short form content, you can use him in long form content. He's perfect basically everywhere. Same as Zoro and Sanji. You can use him basically in every piece of content. He's going to be phenomenal. Ace, great utility, very unique gimmick removal that he has. Int Luffy, phenomenal unit still. Psy Luffy, I mean, this does include his size 6-star and 6-star plus, should I say. So because this unit does combine basically both forms of the unit, yeah, this character is still one of the gods of the game. And I still personally believe that Uta is one of the best legends in the game. Fight me if you disagree, but Uta is a god. Any striker unit that comes out, I mean, like Law, good synergy with Law. Any shooter unit that comes out, like Kid, for example, who actually needs an attack and orb booster on his team, so that Uta works well with that. Or if you got a Cerebral, Striker, Shooter, any unit for support of those units, Uta is going to be super good with, because turn progress activated effect is one of the most busted things they've introduced into this game. That's going to wrap it up for me, though. Unfortunately, no major changes for the tier list, which is disappointing. You know, we were kind of hoping that these versus units were really going to shake things up in terms of the top levels, but at the moment, this is where I've kind of landed, and we'll see how things shake up in the month of October, but I'm not expecting much to change. The thing is, though, is next month is going to be the half anniversary in early to mid-November, so we should expect an anniversary Sugofest there. It's probably not going to bring a god tier character, but we'll see. We could be wrong. We'll see what happens. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.